You know, I love coming back to places like this. I volunteered here when I was working at Tony Avent's. I volunteered in the perennial border, and I'm so glad to see that it's been redone, rejuvenated, because that's what horticulture is. It's keeping up with the latest trends. Normally when I do a talk like this, especially this time of year, I'm ready to give up horticulture because my garden looks like a dog. You know, no pun intended, the dog days of summer have usually been, you know, by August, you're like, oh, my tomatoes look terrible. Japanese beetles have come out, you know, whatever. But August, this is the most un-August like August I've ever seen, especially in the South. And another thing I like about this talk is I grew up in Rochester, New York. The thought of bananas or elephant ears never crossed anybody's minds. I didn't even know of such a hardy banana like Musabaju. I had no idea. It's the hardiest banana. It would survive Rochester, New York temperatures. But I didn't know that kind of world existed. And then I went to school, became a student at Longwood Gardens. Oh yeah, they have bananas and tropicals, all under glass. You know, we're getting there. And then finally, when I graduated, I talked to some colleagues, and they said, well, if you're going to plan on going south, which I have an identical twin sister, and she's also in horticulture, and she's the one who told me, let's move to the south, because we just thought the horticulture here would be phenomenal, and it is, and we can do it year round. It's not blanketed in snow for 4 months out of the year. Y'all, I see y'all shaking your heads, so you know. And now I'm starting to say y'all. But at any rate, I'm so appreciate the landscape down here, because we can't do it all year round, and we certainly do have a world of horticulture that we have unexplored. Those people up north don't know what they're missing. I just absolutely love it. So, you know, Mark said that I've been involved in horticulture pretty much my whole entire life. My sisters and I were employees of my aunt and uncle's garden center up in Rochester, New York. So that's where we got our start. All three of us are in horticulture. Bridget, my twin, is retired. I have few choice words about that, but I'm not going to say it here. I still have many, many years because I can't afford to retire. But I've learned a lot over the years, which I hope everybody in this room has done so as well. And I'm going to touch a little bit more upon this a little bit later, but you know, working for Tony Avent, he's coined the phrase, don't let friends plant annuals. I disagree. I have friends who are annual lovers. And I love putting annuals in the garden, including in the tropical garden, because flowers are a good bridge. They're a good bridge plant between peak perennial seasons or native perennial peak seasons. So lots of annuals. We do that to support pollinators. So even if in a tropical garden, you could still support pollinators. People don't realize that tropical plants, after a rain or after irrigation, the water just kind of sits on the cup of leaves or along the stems. So that's fuel for many pollinators. Color, texture, and form. Use this in your garden. Don't just do all elephant ears. That's going to be boring. You're just going to be like, okay, go. But if you have a different texture, it's going to slow you down. Elephant ear, grass, something little like Angelonia, elephant ear. You know, just keep breaking up those textures. And that's something I learned from Tony Avent. Have fun. It's your garden. This list is my list. So y'all can do whatever you want with this list, but it's my list. You create your own list. You create your own gardens. Don't let anybody in this room tell you how to garden. If you all want to jump on that native plant train, you go right ahead. But if you want to put some exotics in your garden, I'm not going to criticize you. I think it's great. Just like Mark said, I'm equal opportunity. I want every plant in the garden. However, I will, and I'm sure Mark does the same thing, will not put invasives in the garden. That is a big no-no for me. And of course, other things. But this is why we do it. And I'm glad to see, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I'm glad to see the younger generation in this room, because I really do feel like we're losing that younger generation. So get outside early. My nephew, I'm constantly taking him outside. He's 3. My grandnieces, they're constantly doing stuff with horticulture. All my presents are usually involved in some kind of horticulture of some kind. So get them excited about it, because when I was in public horticulture, I would give a lot of tours, and we'd go to the tropical garden or the annual gardens or just wherever, and they'd see a bee and they would scream, and that would just make me so mad. I'm like, why are you screaming? So get them excited about these things. So, okay, let's just dive into it. We're going to talk about tropicals. Now, this garden talk is wonderful because I get to share some really cool plants if you haven't seen them. But I don't want you to go home and start planting these things. You got to wait till spring. Sorry. That's my recommendation. You know, last year, I don't know about you guys, but we had a pretty cold winter. We did have a period in January where it got down to really cold. Now, snow's not a problem. But you really want a long growing season so that those plants fully establish. So get your appetites wet now and start planning and thinking about what you can purchase. Some of these nurseries, you can purchase these plants and just hold them in a cart, or just let them wait and ship them to you at an appropriate time. Or of course, if you see them in person, then you might have to bring it in. That's what my recommendation is just wait till spring. So of course, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've all been to Plant Delight's nursery, but the giant elephant ear, this thing was discovered by one of Tony's former, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna do a shameless plug for Tony Avon this whole talk, so bear with me. We had purchased this for the public garden in Kernersville, and it was ginormous. We would bring it in every year because this is an annual bed, but we would put it in our basement. This thing would come out of dormancy in spring, and it would get easily 8-10 feet tall every year. And the kids loved it. And the flowers, which actually are quite large and they're quite fragrant. We grew this. This is the original plant that Tony Avent brought back. One of his employees brought back, that is, many years ago. And this is one growing in my friend's garden in Lake Norman. This is coffee cups. I believe there's another variety called teacups, but I actually think they're the same plant. Teacups was supposed to be smaller, but I don't know if that's actually in the trade. But what I love about coffee cups is it has a cup, and when if you ever stop to watch this thing fill up during a rainstorm, it literally will fill up, dump the water, come back up, fill it up, dump the water, come back up. I've seen it many times. I've actually got video of it, but I don't know where that video is. I lost a lot of my photos and stuff when I left the public garden world, but that's okay. But yeah, this thing is a nice cup, and it just fills up with water. I love it. Absolutely love it. So movement in the garden is kind of cool. You know, it's a little added bonus there. You know, we have gone a far way from just your plain green elephant ears. There's these gold ones, and you don't think of gold in full sun, but here it is in full sun, thriving. Moisture is key, and rich soils are key. Nancy Revenge was a nice wave that came out with this new yellow center. It was like really cool. It was like the first one that had different texture in the leaf, different color in the leaf. And then there's Mojito. One of the best ones I've seen, and it's stable. It'll continue to do this pattern throughout every leaf. We're getting darker colors now. Pineapple Princess is okay. I like it. It's not green, but then you got these darker ones. And I think I had a typo. I think it's bicolor. I don't think it's phalax, by the way. But for those who have a little bit of shade in your garden, this would be a good one. So if you like this one, jot down Colocasia bicolor instead. And it can tolerate, oh, I already said that, it can tolerate shade, but it stays rather small. It's a short one. And then, of course, Black Beauty, which has been around for a while. And then the Hawaiian series came about. And then we've got Royal Hawaiian. We've got Diamond Head. If you've been to Hawaii, some of these names sound familiar to you. Check it out. When this plant first came out, Redemption, I did a screenshot. So that photo isn't going to be all that great. But I did ask for permission, by the way. Waikiki came out, and then this Maui Sunrise and Redemption. I was floored when I saw that it was $450. Now, granted, this was taken about 3 or 4 years ago. You can actually purchase this plant, a small plant, for $35 now. So, and you know, with working for Tony Avent for 8 years, I would answer a lot of nursery questions. And one of the questions what we get was, what's the size of your plants? These are plant size, not bulb size. So that's something to bear in mind when you purchase these plants from Plant Delight's Nursery, especially this time of year. Don't put this in the ground because it doesn't have a fully developed bulb that will survive the winter. Next year, if you do all this, it'll survive just nicely. These are not Lowe's or Home Depot, buy it in a box, bring it home type plants. This is not that way. This is one of my favorites. Could you imagine seeing this in your garden, maybe bringing in school kids? Could you imagine some of the comments they might make about this? Looks like your rib cage. It's kind of cool. Pharaoh's Mask was another one that came out that was uber expensive, but now it's a little bit more manageable. Or you could be have really good friends that like to share, because that's how I got this plant. I didn't buy it. I had a friend. And that's what these elephant ears do. They spread and they'll multiply. But that one's pretty cool. And so having said that, yes, please, I recommend planting them in spring. Some of them might get a little bit bigger than you thought they would. You can put them in containers. However, I don't know if they would overwinter well in a container, because a container plant, you know, there's nothing protecting the side. So all those roots are exposed to the cold weather. So you might have to bring the container indoors. Since I've lived now in Winston-Salem, we're slightly colder, just a half a zone colder. I shouldn't say I just purchased. My husband and I bought this house about 5 years ago. We have very little sun. We're actually creating more sun by taking down a few trees. But we have yet to test the limits. So right now, all our elephant ears are in pots. They go in our basement and then they come back out and they're happy as can be. We actually bought those kiddie pools so that we can dump them in the kiddie pool in the winter and keep them moist. We have grow lights down there. So, you know, thank goodness we don't have windows. We have 11 glorious acres that we could just do our own thing out there with the boxers. So yeah, those are some of my PSA comments about that. So if you like a little bit more color in your gardens, consider these plants. Orange Punch was one of the first ones to come out that had this really nice bright orange flower. It actually only gets about 4 or 5 feet tall, but it can spread. You do have to be a little careful. Cannas can actually grow well in containers, and they probably will overwinter in containers outdoors too. Bengal tiger, I don't even know if this one's available anymore. You might have to find some old-timey gardener that has been growing cannas forever to find this one. But it's got this really nice yellow and green striped leaf with that hint of red. And as an added bonus, it's got this really nice stalk of red with this orange flower. It pairs well. We had it in our tropical garden at the public garden I worked in Kernersville, and it just was ginormous, and I would just love pairing it with lobelia or a few other things. Cleopatra is a great one because it has this really nice different color. Cleopatra, like the namesake, is an unstable plant. She doesn't know if she wants to be spotted or yellow or red or some of the above. She doesn't know if she wants to be all purple, all green, a combination of both. Sometimes you might get all green, sometimes you might get all purple. And it's not gonna happen every year, but it could happen every year. A few new ones came out. Wine and Roses, White Tiger. Of course, these are all from Plant Delight's nursery catalog, but one of my favorites is Panache. Panache is tall. It tends to be a little bit more narrow. Has a very nice clear pink salmon color flower. What I like about Panache is it's one of the last ones to be chewed by Japanese beetles or Kiana leaf rollers. I hope that's not a big problem here. It was when I lived here. When I was in Kernersville, it took 8 years for them to finally show up in that garden. So I left, so it's not my problem anymore. But Canna Panache is definitely one of the best. And they're not just for color of their flowers. Consider the foliage too. Great contrast. I like this dead sedge with the purple. I like dahlias with a dahlias flower also on. Dahlias are hardy. Some are hardier than others. I like, this is the garden in Kernersville. I had it in the tropical garden. Nice contrast with the banana in the background. And again, an extra added bonus is that red flower. This is another one that probably has been lost in the trade, but hopefully you have some friends that might have this one. I love it. That it's kind of the opposite of Bengal tiger, where it's got the purple and the reddish more so. Who would have thought? I don't know where I took this photo. This is my photo, but I don't remember where I saw this, where somebody actually had this with their hydrangea. That's kind of odd, but I love it. It worked very well. Maybe it was my garden. Canna intrigue is another one where it's tall and upright. The leaves are only like 4 inches wide. This too is one of the last ones to succumb to Japanese beetles or canna leaf rollers. I've not seen that on this one at all. The flower is a kind of a orange color. I like it more for its foliage, for that upright texture too. Upright, you know, this is a good upright, so you could use these to break up your textures too. It's kind of like a grass, but not really. So canna leaf rollers, I've already mentioned. Black Japanese beetles, I've already mentioned. Have you guys seen canna leaf rollers? They're gross. They're some of the grossest caterpillars I've ever seen. There's 3 different kinds, the small, the medium, and large. I think we have them all. But they're kind of clear, so you could see their guts and other things. They're really gross. Of course, Japanese beetles are one of those, like, they're worse one year, they're okay another year. Some are too aggressive, so be careful. But I think you could get away, like I said, putting these in containers and they might survive. Again, I would do it early on. So here we are with the bananas again. My first exposure to these bananas was working for Tony Avent. For 8 years, I became his garden curator. In fact, one of my colleagues at Longwood said, go call Tony Avent, so I did. And I remember talking to the girl who answered the phone in customer service, and she's like, can I help you? And I said, yeah, my name is Adrienne. I'm getting ready to graduate Longwood Gardens, and I want to come work for Tony. And she laughed at me. And she's like, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm like, well, is Tony available? And so sure enough, Tony got on the phone, and he called me down for an interview. And sure enough, a couple weeks later after I graduated, I moved down south. And if y'all don't know this story, I gotta tell this story. This is an amazing story. So I came down to replace Rodney, who now is at, I don't know where he is. He's up north somewhere. He was Tony's curator for many years. He was going to Longwood Gardens. I was coming from Longwood Gardens. Him and I had a 2-week overlap. And so after lunch, we're walking in Tony's garden. We're going back to work, and I see this gentleman in the garden weeding. And Rodney goes, oh, good, Adrienne, I want to introduce you to John. John stood up, John Roethling stood up, and I said to myself, that's the man I'm going to marry. And sure enough, we met at Plant the Lights. I was his boss, and guess what? I still am. He doesn't deny it. It's almost 23 years later now that we've been married, and he likes boxers now too, thank goodness. But we're slowly building our botanical garden. This is Musella. Musella is more of a shorty banana. It has this wonderful upright flower. It doesn't really produce much of a banana, if you will. So just enjoy it for its looks. But then this one, this is the Musabaju. This one's super hardy. I've had people say it's hardy for their gardens in zone 5, zone 6. I've seen this in Tennessee where the clump is as big as half the size of this room. I kid you not. I think that was at Jason Reeves' the extension garden. I saw that huge monster in their garden. Woo! But my brother texted me the other day and he goes, Adrienne, my banana's blooming. He lives down in Gastonia. He's like, my banana's blooming. What do I do to get the bananas to keep going? I'm like, well, just let it go until frost. If you get a frost or freeze, I said, but what you could do is you could cut that stalk because it's going to start producing bananas here. The leaves will fall off, the bananas will form, or the petals will fall off, and it just keep hanging down until you get a nice stalk of bananas. And so I said, if we get a frost, cut it and bring it indoors and let it ripen inside. We'll see if that works. I've done that at Tony Avon's once before, but that's so long ago, I don't even remember the outcome. But Musa very large plant. I love walking through it. Musa velutina is another good hardy one. This one will produce fast. It'll just keep going. The fruit is about the size of your thumb. The seeds are inside there, they're black. It's very sticky and it's full of seed. There is absolutely nothing to eat, nothing to enjoy. But what happens is those seeds will drop and almost 100% germination rate will happen. So you've got a lot to share with your friends. So just be careful. But you could get this blooming in less than 2 years from one stalk. And easily, both Musa and Musa velutina can easily get to mature height from dormancy to mature height in like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. If you go to Plant Delight's nursery for their fall open house, these things will be ginormous. Again, lots of compost and water. These plants will survive the dog days of summer, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna need a little bit of help. You're gonna have to help them with a little bit of compost. What I would literally do, this is what I tell my brother to do in Gastonia, get a bag of, I don't know, Daddy Pete's compost, mushroom compost, something. Cut it open, dump it right around the roots. Just do that every year. That's all you need to do. And water, of course. And then this is one I actually grew in Kernersville for many, many years, and I'm surprised Tony Avon has, I think he said he's tried growing it. Kernersville's an hour and a half west. We're 1,000-foot elevation. We're half a zone colder. This thing's been in the tropical garden for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? I can't remember when I planted it. Sad story, I understand that the new owners of the garden might get rid of this tropical garden. So I quickly sent a mass plea and said, I know I have no say, but somebody save that banana before it goes under construction. So we'll see what happens. But black tie has that really nice purple stalk, and it easily gets over 20 feet tall. I actually had a bamboo stake that I cut that I measured every foot, and it was taller than the stake. I think the stake went to 18 feet, and it was taller than the stake. So this is a really cool plant. Again, from dormancy to 20 feet in one season. Super hardy. Don't even need to put leaves around it if you don't want to. They will shred in heavy winds. I kind of like the look. You know, you get that nice solid look, but then you have all this stuff that just kind of flaps. It's cool, especially in the wind. They do need lots of room. Bear that in mind. The Musella lasiocarpa, the first one I showed, stays more maintained. Musa velutina just spreads by seed. Musa bajou, of course, I already talked about how large it is. The Musa black tie, if you can get a hold of it. Somebody go to Kernersville late at night and go dig it up for me, please. Please. There's no cameras there, I promise, in that spot. But that one only got maybe 6, 7 feet wide at the base, but it got 20 feet tall. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's my PSA with those. All right, so not so big and beautiful, or excuse me, not so bold, but still big and beautiful. Hardy palms. There's lots of palms out here. We had palms in Kernersville. They survived the winter. We had sable minor. Sable minor is more one of those like shrub palms. You don't see the trunk. The trunk actually kind of goes underground. So if you were to purchase this plant, again, do it in spring. And you could buy a 1 quart size plant. It'll survive. I promise you it'll survive. Plant it in the ground. Choose a spot where you're going to leave it forever, because this is going to be a bear if you ever want to move it. Any of these palms will be a bear if you ever want to move it. Going back to the bananas, when you see all these little pups form, take a sharpshooter shovel, like one of those really nice narrow irrigation shovels or whatever they call it, and you can actually slice a nice clean break to try to get that pup out to do more. You could do that. You can't do that with the banana palms. Sorry. They survive the winter. This is another Plant Delight story. This is my husband's photo. The day I left, when I was looking for a job when I was a student at Longwood Gardens, and I came down to interview with Tony, and so I was like, I got a month, Tony, what do you think? And I emailed him, and it took him a long time to email me back. And so finally he did. He goes, sorry, we just had 22 inches of snow here. He goes, but you're hired. I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean you had 22 inches of snow? I'm leaving that weather, and this is what I'm coming down to. But my husband took that photo the same day that I called for an interview. He was working. I don't know why he was there working. He was a student at NC State, and he was an up-and-coming plant nerd. So they survived the winter, no problem. This is a windmill palm that's grown at Tony's. This is the one in Kernersville. What's really cool is the flower stalks come out early in the season. These things will start, yeah, you have a brick wall. That might have something to do with it. But this one starts flowering. There's still Aramitalicum right there. Right here, some Aramitalicum, which if you know that plant, that's a winter performer. So here it is still performing, and while the bananas are coming into full bloom. They're really cool blooms. And if they do mature, and if the weather's warm enough, they will attract pollinators. It's pretty cool. And then they just continue to elongate. It's really cool. Manahot, hardy tapioca. This is not the variety that you would produce the tapioca pudding. For the older generation in the room, tapioca is in a really nice pudding with these little teeny tiny balls, kind of vanilla. But this is hardy. Tony Avent grows these in his garden. They're like small trees. They have these really cool palmate leaves. They have that really cool teeny tiny flower. You kind of have to get up close and personal to see the flower. But what's really cool, this is great for the kids. When the seeds form, I don't see any seeds, but the seeds are about the size of your thumbnail. And when they mature, they pop and shoot the seeds out. It's really cool. You better watch yourself. Don't get poked in the eye by one of those. But it's pretty cool. It dies back to the ground, I think. I don't know. It used to when I lived here. Our winters have gotten a little bit warmer, but it'll resprout. But it's just a cool plant to talk about. This is one of those plants where I was kind of hesitant to put it in it. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this. The reason I was hesitant is because during the dog days of summer, it goes dormant. What happens is this plant sends out leaves in the winter. It's a perennial, the hardy cardoon. It's a perennial. The leaves come out in winter. They look great, nice, full, lush in spring, and then slowly a flower stalk will emerge, and then you got that wonderful purple flower. Now this is not an edible artichoke, it's just ornamental. But by August, when that flower's done, it collapses and it goes dormant. It just disappears. So I kind of was like, but I wanted to keep it in there because of what it does in the wintertime. I mean, it's bold. I like it. It's gray. I like that too. And it'll start to come back out of dormancy, like come October, November. But I thought it was cool, and I left it in there. These things are also really cool. Angel's trumpets. I haven't tried these in Walkertown just yet, Winston-Salem area just yet, but I'm willing. Again, I have this plant, but I put it in my basement every year and bring it back out. They'll come out of dormancy from winter and easily get 5, 6, 7, 8 feet tall and have loads of blooms, and they're fragrant mostly at night. They do attract nocturnal insects. Pink. This is one called Charles Grimaldi. This is actually my twin sister's garden when her and I used to do competitions at State Fair. So this is her garden that she installed. She got blue ribbon for that. This is triple peach. So it's got double the flowers. They call it triple because of the calyx or whatever that is that still holds on. So 1, 2. This is a new flower, but this is kind of cool. I kind of like that one. And I forgot where I got triple peach. I don't know. Snowbank has this nice variegation to it. This will burn in full sun with dry weather, so make sure you add lots of compost, make sure you water it, and you won't see that. Sunset has just a hint of white to the leaf, but look at those pendulous flowers. I mean, angel's trumpet flowers, huge. And they'll grow tall enough where you can actually walk underneath them, I promise you. Large flower, I just love these things. Y'all doing okay? I'm halfway through my lecture. I'll talk briefly. This is going to be John and I, except I think I'll be the one doing the pushing in the wheelbarrow. Again, I've already mentioned this to you guys. Have fun in your gardens. It's your garden. You do what you want. So I'll tell you just real quickly about the situation in Kernersville. I left this area to become the garden curator for a new up-and-coming public garden in Kernersville, Ciener Botanical Garden. The pandemic, I moved there in 2008, got that garden going, was wonderful. It's still nice. During the pandemic, of course, our building sat empty and we lost a lot of revenue and staff. We had to reduce staff. We were going to partner with the town of Kernersville, so we were all going to become municipality employees. Well, there was a signed agreement. It was wonderful. They, of course, pushed me away from any exec type stuff, which is fine. I love being in the garden. But I decided that I no longer wanted to be there because I quickly realized how little they cared about plants and how more they cared about the revenue. I get it. It's government. I get it. But I was no longer needed. And I went through almost 16 months of misery. I had to get out of it for my mental health. And I've been using that in my talks ever since. Make yourselves happy. Just do it. Do it in your garden any way you want. I'm in a much better place. I have great bosses. I work at a private garden, really private. I was telling Marty earlier. It's right across the street from Ronaldo Gardens. John's in public, I'm in private. John has 130 acres. I have 3.5 acres, but I have diverse selection of plants. I can't get up too early in the morning because I can't start using the leaf blower till like 9 o'clock. That's the best thing about public gardening is I don't have to, or not being in public gardening is I don't have to clean that place before the visitors get there. I don't have to do any of that. Going back to plants. Crinum, they will certainly do well during the dog days of summer. Rain, shine, terrible soils, great soils. I mean, they're diehards in the garden. Ellen Boson K, one of the first pink ones that I was introduced to, of course, Elba. This one's growing at the Ciener Gardens. Oh, no, sorry, this one's not growing. This is growing at my new garden. But anyway, look at that different color, wine and milk and wine. I like that. This is growing at Ciener Garden in their parking lot area. This thing is massive. From a little plant to a huge mass in less than 5 years, I shouldn't say thousands, hundreds of flower stalks on this thing. And it's in one of the worst areas. It's up against the parking lot curb. There's an oak with the roots right near it. This thing is a powerhouse. I've always enjoyed it. Summer glow. And that doesn't even tell you the varieties that are out there. John went down to visit our friends in Riverbanks and he had given us a bulb crate full of crinums. And I thought there was all one variety. So I'm cleaning them up, taking them out, and I'm like, they have a rubber band with a tag on. I'm like, these are all different. These are all ones that I've never heard of. Thanks to Jenks Farmer down in Columbia, who has really taken crinum lilies by storm. And again, these are diehard plants for the dog days of summer. This is a great plant. If you haven't grown this one, it's really quite unusual. It's called coral bean because it will form a bean-like structure when the flowers are done. But look at those spikes of cool flowers. Comes in red. I believe there's a white one. There's tropical forms. These are hardy forms. This one only gets about 4 or 5 feet tall and wide. And then there's this one, Bidwillii, which this one's grown in Kernersville, no problem. And that's a 8-foot fence. Well, the fence is not in that picture, but it's grown up against the 8-foot fence and it towers the 8-foot fence every year. I love it. Somebody go to Kernersville and get this too for me, please. Gloriosa lily. Have you guys tried this plant? It's a vining lily that flowers all summer long. It's hardy. It has this really nice tuberous root planted in the ground spring, and it will multiply, but you got this vining plant that will come up, and it's got all these wonderful recurved flowers that come out. These are great in containers. They're great meandering through some of your other tropical plants because it does need a little bit of a support. It comes in this pink and yellow. It has red and yellow. It's got all yellow. Terracea Farms. I got a bunch of them from them. They're on the coast. And I put a source list, by the way, on your handout. So they're on there. They should be on there. I'm going to go find out. Calla lilies. They're obviously a great cut flower plant. Yeah, they're on there. People use them in bouquets, but you can grow these in your garden. They flower early in the season, but then you have these really nice spade-shaped leaves all summer long. And again, perfectly hardy for you. White giant, no, sorry, Hercules. There's also one called white giant. Gets this tall in full flower. I kid you not. I've seen it. It's at Plant Delight's Nursery. I put this in the garden in Kernersville. I don't know what happened to it. There's one called Mango. Great cut flowers too. There's lots of curcumas you can grow. They're perfectly hardy. Yeah, you can go find some at the Lowe's Hardware, but those aren't gonna be your hardy ones. So these are your hardy ones, but they flower low. So a lot of people are like, where are the flowers? I'm like, look down. That's what my relationship with my husband is like. I look down, he looks up. Kind of like Michael Durr and Alan Armitage. Alan Armitage is a herbaceous person. Michael Durr is a woody person. That's what keeps my relationship going. And of course, the hardy gingers. In my mind, these are like crinums. They will survive anything. Concrete, no water. The flowers come out and they're so super fragrant. I absolutely love them. Daniel Weeks is one of the first ones to come into flower, and it'll flower all summer long. And you got some of these others. This is Disney with a little teeny tiny flower, but on a nice stalk. We had this growing next to black tie in the garden. Dr. Moy has a hint of variegation. Actually, we had this under an oak tree, and it did fine. It was bright light, but it was still under an oak tree, so it got some shade, and it did just fine. Y'all seen the hibiscus, man? I'm going down the road every day to work and I see this nice red hibiscus in full bloom. I just absolutely love it. The dinner plate size flowers. I actually had the species in this talk, but the species flowers are smaller and I'm like, nah. I'm like, I want big and bold. So the Texas scarlet sage and then some of these newer cultivars that have come out. Tony Avon does a good job at selling a bunch at the nursery. Of course, I have friends who like to share.
So are these edible?
I'm sorry?
Are these edible?
Not this hibiscus, no. No, there are hibiscus that you make the tea, and that's a tropical one that we can't grow here. You can grow it for a season, but it's the red tea. I believe this is Midnight Marvel. This was up at Biltmore Estate. But what I like about it also is even when the flowers come off and you still got that stalk that holds the flower bud, I absolutely love it. I still think it's architectural, and it's definitely worth noting. Okay, so we're going to finish this talk primarily for shade lovers because there's a lot of people here, including myself, who has 11 acres, but only one of that is sun, and half of that sun is for my dogs. So I have very little sun, but I have lots of shade, and I still want that tropical appearance, if you will, in the shade. So this is my very best effort to help you all out. If you've seen these fatsias, these are related to English ivy. Don't go there because they're not going to do that. These are shrubs. They have evergreen leaves the shape of your hand. They're huge. There's a plain green one, which is beautiful. They get about 5-6 feet tall and wide. They have white spikes of flowers with white clusters that flower really late in the season, like November, followed by seeds. The seeds never really mature enough in our area, so you'll never get a little seedling. But there's some with this really cool variation to them. Spider's web was one of the first ones to come out. That's really cool. Camouflage. I got this plant. This is mine at Lowe's. Sorry, I hate to say that, but I did. I got it at Lowe's. Gingerbur, which is another type of ginger that is really nice white variegation to it, but you want to put it in the shade because it will burn in sun. I've done that. But the flowers are at the root level. They come out of the roots. So again, look down to see these in flowers. I like it more for its foliage, which makes me really happy. Tractor seat plant. As soon as I moved to the south, somebody said, "Do you have that tractor seat plant?" I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. We grow this up north. We grow ligulary, no problem. But I always called it leopard plant. But I adapted and now I call it tractor seat plant too. So wonderful, big leaves, can tolerate shade. Some variegated forms. And then this one's just, I wanted to show you the flowers. They're like daisies that come up on stalks. And then Tony had this one in his garden. It's like the shredded leopard plant with this nice dissected leaf. Wonderful flowers that bloom in summer. But his plant, no kidding, is 5-6 feet tall. It's amazing. He actually put this plant in after I left. And when I came back, I didn't recognize the whole garden because this ginormous thing was in the middle of it. We've already done this. But now that you've had fun and you're learning, teach. Go out there and teach. So if you want to put a bottle tree in your garden, you go right ahead. Because now I have 3. Absolutely love it. But I've been all over the country. I've even been to New Zealand. They had a lot of tropical plants they grew that we can't grow here. But Brett and Becky's bulbs, if you've ever visited their garden, they have this wonderful border. Actually, this is their house. This is not even on the site, but you can get a tour of their house. They have this nice little abode with these tropical plants. I even like that they put castor bean in it. Of course, Montrose, closer to home. Now, this garden might look a little messy. From here down, looks a little on the messy side. But thank goodness they have bananas to break that up, to stop you, to slow you down. Thank goodness. This is all just a blur and you wouldn't want to stop and look at it. Maybe if we brought these a little closer, it would be even more, slow you down. But still, thank goodness for those bold textures. Plant Delights Nursery. This is the opposite side of that elephant ear that I showed earlier. I helped build all this wall, so it's kind of nice to go back and see all of this stuff. It's just great. I helped build all of that. Mark's old homestead. This is Norfolk Gardens. I love that the water's right there, so it gets really a lot of good reflection heat, and all this is certainly hardy there. Lake Norman, I have friends who live on Lake Norman, so we get on the boat and just go look around. This is close to Charlotte on this side, but I mean, yeah, knockout roses we know. Cycad palms, encephalardos, I guess over there. And then these windmill palms. Really cool to see all this. Same, grown with crepe myrtles. Why not? Now, Chanticleer, if you haven't been, it's up in Pennsylvania. Well, joke's on them, they have to dig all that up. But most of that's perfectly hardy. This is Ensete murali, which is not hardy for us. We'd have to bring that in, but there's the black tie. Another shot of Chanticleer. This was the garden in Kernersville. This is their tropical garden. Here's black tie. Even the philodendron, which we had growing here, would survive there. Musa volutna, the Thailand giant, Canna intrigue, and lots of flowers. The lilies, the lily formicena actually started in the perennial border, and then it seeded into the tropical garden, then seeded into the pattern garden, then seeded into the parking lot, and then seeded into the hillside, and seeded into the Japanese garden. I actually kind of like it. Wonderful, fragrant flowers, but we're talking about tropicals. And then if you haven't seen this garden, another shameless plug. This is Ronaldo Gardens, where my husband is director. He actually just took this shot the other day. I showed Greg that he took this shot and he submitted it for a photo contest, and it got the photo contest winner of the week. But this is his seasonal beds, so he will dig these up. You could barely see it in my next shot. This is a banana he has growing off in the distance. Prepare yourselves, I got something fun to show you. Boom. Variegated bananas. So this is Musa II, which has been growing in Tony's garden. At least when I was there, it was there, so it was hardy. Luck of the draw, John went somewhere, found this pink one. He just posted it on his Facebook page, and I guess his Facebook blew up because people were like, where'd you get it? But these photos were taken a week ago. So, wonderful. If you're ever in the Winston-Salem area, please call John first because he's in a public garden, but I'm sure I can probably do something where I can get you to see my private garden where I work now. And yeah, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.